Hi, magic lovers. Welcome back. This is Tracy Partridge-Johnson, here to read the final chapters of Book 1, The Golden Telescope, in my Jack and the Magic Hat Maker series. And then we'll go ahead and get started on Book 2, The Kidnapping King, which is exciting. I hope that you can hear me okay with this little fan blowing on me right here. Feeling a little warm this evening, so I've got the fan going. So I hope that you don't mind too much. Anyhow, I'm not going to say a whole lot right now. I'm just going to go ahead and dig in to reading the final chapters. Are you as excited as I am? I am very excited about reading you the last couple of chapters here. So let's go ahead. Let's see. We are picking up at chapter 36. Reality check. And we start off in Dublin, Ireland, present day. Arthur stood over Jack with the spectacles in his hand. Jack's legs wobbled under him, and the butler quickly took him by the elbow and helped him onto the couch. He then dashed across the room to the walnut sideboard, filled a cup with water, and returned, handing the drink to Jack. "Thanks," Jack said. He took a sip, then he wiped his mouth on the back of his sleeve. He sat quietly with a somber look on his face. "Well," Bill asked, "what happened? Did you see Sir Edward?" Jack looked up at his friend. Kind of." "What do you mean, kind of?" Bart jumped in. "That's exactly what I meant. I kind of saw him." Jack sighed. "It makes it difficult when I'm looking out through his own eyes, you know." He raised both of his eyebrows at his friend as if to say, "Duh." "Mostly I saw his hands. And just before the end of the vision, Grandpa Edward walked toward a mirror. I think he wanted to show himself to me." Jack rubbed his eyes and wiped his forehead. "Did he say anything to you? Was he able to communicate a message?" Arthur asked. "That's the interesting thing," Jack began. "It seems like he can only communicate with me through writing, because he went to a desk and wrote out a message to me. A warning, really." Jack paused for emphasis. "A warning?" Bill asked. "What kind of warning?" "I'm not sure if I can remember it word for word, but he basically said that I'm in terrible danger. Just like last time." Jack looked at Bart, then back to Bill. "He said that my aunts murdered my parents." Bart's mouth dropped open. Jack shook his head, blinking to keep the tears from pooling in his eyes. Bill frowned and sat on the sofa beside Jack, placing a comforting arm around his shoulder. "So this is where I should tell you that your grandfather suspected their death wasn't an accident," he said. "That's the reason behind why I relocated to Portland in the first place." Bill paused, and a grave expression crossed his face. "I'm shocked to hear that Inez and Clara were behind it, though. Ross's own sisters?" "Was there anything else in his message, Master Jack?" Arthur prompted. Swallowing, Jack found his voice again. "He said that Inez and Clara think he's dead. He also mentioned that he is in hiding in the past for self-protection." He looked inquisitively at Bill, then at Arthur. "I know Master could send people backward and forward through time by use of the hats," Arthur said. "That's what got him into trouble with the mission he sent Lady Lydia on. But Sir Edward wasn't wearing a hat when Inez and her thugs forced him out through the portal that night. So I'm quite perplexed about how he pulled off such a stunt." "Oh, and he said one more thing. Jack started with a new sense of sadness in his voice. He said that my aunts have seduced Ethan, and that I present an obstacle to their evil plans. So I need to master my abilities, and fast. And he looked at Bill as he said this. He said that he would do what he can to help. Crazy, Bart said. But how much help can he possibly be if he's hiding in the past? I'll bet there's quite a lot he can teach you by means of those glasses, Master Jack, Arthur offered. Climax, Chapter 37, Dublin, Ireland, present day. I don't know anything about these evil aunts of mine, Jack started, and he jumped up off the couch, facing the others. But they have my brother. There is no way Ethan could know what those witches have done. His brown eyes were dark and foreboding, and there was a new intensity in his demeanor. He has to be told. And we need to get him away from them before it's too late. He turned to look at Arthur. You said you tried to rescue him? When was that? It's been more than 2 years, Master Jack, the butler replied, with a sad and skeptical look on his face. I fear they may have their claws too deeply embedded in him by now. Especially since it's clear they utilize dark magic to influence and manipulate things to their own advantage, Bill added. I mean, I think about the lengths they've gone to already, killing their brother and his wife, then attempting to murder their father. He paused. It seems likely they may have also used those powers to sway Ethan their way. Yeah, well, I'm not willing to just assume he's lost to the dark side, Jack rounded on Bill. Next thing you know, they'll be going after Sadie, too. I can't allow that to happen. His eyes were wild with rage, and he shoved his damp bangs out of his face as he paced. I'm surprised they haven't tried harder to find me, he said. Then he stopped abruptly in the middle of the room and stared at Bart. What is the recurring theme I've been hearing in these visions, Bart? Your grandparents? He asked, looking across at his friend. Jack rolled his eyes. And? He urged. And? Bart's eyes widened. They both warned you that you're in danger. Exactly, Jack said. After they plotted to have my parents murdered, they split us up and have been keeping an eye on us ever since. They even went to the effort to have those stupid tracking rings made to monitor our magical abilities. He took a deep breath, looking around the room at each of them with increasing intensity. You can bet they're going crazy trying to figure out where I am. Jack darted across the library, pulling the drapes aside to look out at the empty grounds. He could feel it in his heart, in the dreaded, incessant thumping that pounded through him. They were out there. He knew it. He turned back to the room, starting to hyperventilate. He shoved his hand into his pocket and withdrew his inhaler. Sucking on it deeply, he rolled his eyes and exhaled, then stuffed it back where it came from. Ugh, I hate that, Jack exclaimed. Anyhow, I'm not about to sit here just waiting for them to voop in and grab me at any moment. I feel like a sitting duck here. I want to take action. We need to find out where Ethan is. I want to talk to him. He needs to know the truth. Jack looked at Arthur, who was scowling and appeared to be concentrating hard on something, then to Bill. Well, I happen to have a tool with me that could help us with locating Ethan. Bill stood and headed for the doorway of the library. It's in my suitcase. I'll be right back. And he dashed into the hall, his footsteps thundering up the staircase. Actually, Master Jack, We should be able to locate your brother using the globe, Arthur said, and the three of them looked at one another. Let's do it, Jack exclaimed. Lead the way, Artie. They all dashed out of the library, up the staircase, and stopped out of breath in front of the familiar walnut door. The butler pulled a large key ring from his jacket pocket, identified the appropriate key, then inserted it into the keyhole, and opened the door. Whoa, this is incredible, Bart exclaimed as he came to the top of the stairs and saw the enormous glass-domed ceiling. Following Arthur to the oversized globe dominating the center of the room, the two boys stood silently watching as the butler pressed the red button on the handrail and a control panel popped into view. Arthur pressed some buttons on its screen, then looked up to view the surface of the globe. Sure enough, a single sapphire blue light blinked on not far from their present location. Arthur looked down again to the control panel. Stockholm, Sweden? I never would have guessed, he said. Can you get precise coordinates, Artie? Jack asked. Let me see what I can do here, Master Jack. And Arthur looked back down to the screen when suddenly the blue dot blinked out and the surface of the globe went dark. Arthur jumped back and frowned. Strange. I've never seen it do that before. Let me reset it here. And he pressed the red button off and then on again. The blue light reappeared, but in a different location. So bizarre. Now it says Dublin, Ireland. Jack looked in shock at the butler, whose eyes were fixated on the other side of the room. He turned to see what Arthur was staring at and was astonished to find a shimmering oval in shades of pink, aqua, and yellow hovering in mid-air. Oh, Lord, Arthur muttered, not again. 3 personages were coming into view. One woman with flowing black hair, another with wavy ginger hair on the left, and in between them a young man with abundant black curls hanging down to his shoulders. Ethan? Jack whispered, unsure whether it really was his brother he was seeing. Then, as the apparition came more fully into view, he shouted, Ethan! Dashing around the globe to where his brother stood, he froze on the other side, taking in his brother's cool stare. He was instantly reminded of Grandpa Edward's words. Seduced. Ah, so this is where they've been hiding you, nephew, the black-haired woman cooed. We're so happy to have finally found you. The ginger one reached out to caress Jack's cheek, but he flinched, shoving her hand away. Unfazed, she continued, We've been sick with worry. Don't you touch me, Jack spat. I know who you are, and I know what you've done. His voice was filled with venom as he lashed out with his words. Between the two women, Jack assumed were Inez and Clara, Ethan stood emotionless, observing the encounter. Oh dear, how unfortunate, Inez began. What kind of lies have they been filling your head with? Inez asked, not interested in an answer. More damage control, she said, looking over Jack's shoulder to Arthur. We really must stop meeting like this, dear Arthur, she said. What do you want this time, Inez? Arthur glared. You leave the boy alone. He is fine here with me. Very kind of you to offer your services, but Jack requires proper training now that his magical abilities have manifested. And unfortunately, you aren't qualified to provide the instruction, she said, then looked back to Jack. Did Arthur tell you stories about how your aunties are evil and that you're in danger from us? Her tone was sing-song and sarcastic. He tried to convince your brother of the same things, but we have proven otherwise. Just ask him. The room was silent. All eyes fell on Ethan. He stood, staring at Jack for a long moment, then shifted his gaze to Bart, standing back next to the butler, and finally to Arthur. He smirked, turning to his aunt. She smiled back at him, almost proudly, but then something passed between them, and the look behind her eyes changed. In a flash, Ethan grabbed hold of the glowing pendant around Inez's neck. "You'll pay for what you've done, Auntie." With great force, he shoved her into the portal, ripping the necklace from her body. The next moment, darkness filled the room as the portal vanished, and Inez along with it, leaving Clara standing there, speechless. Bill dashed up the stairs just then, carrying a large, old book in his arms. "Sorry it took me so long. I was searching everywhere." He stopped abruptly, his mouth falling open as he took in the scene in the room. "Jack," Ethan said. Jack met his eyes, and his smile transformed. Ethan opened his arms, and Jack rushed to him, wrapping his arms around him, and the two of them stood in an embrace for several moments before stepping away. "How did you know? I thought for sure they've got to you," Jack asked with a bewildered look on his face. "I've had my suspicions for quite a while now, but didn't want to let on until I knew for sure. One of my gifts is that I can read minds. It can come in handy sometimes." Ethan grinned down at his brother. "I wasn't completely confident until I walked through that portal and was able to read all three of your thoughts here tonight. That was all I needed to confirm what I already suspected." All eyes turned to Clara, hovering next to them. "It wasn't me! I promise it wasn't me!" she shrieked. "It has been Inez all along. I tried to talk her out of it, really I did. But when Sister has her mind set on something, well..." She trailed off, her eyes dropping to the ground. "But you went along with it, Auntie," Ethan accused. "How could you allow her to kill our parents and our grandfather? You're not exactly innocent." "I was compelled." She looked up again, her gaze watery, and she appeared terrified. "You don't know the powerful forces behind her. She is not acting alone." Jack stepped away from Ethan and faced Clara. "What do you mean she isn't acting alone?" "I will tell you all about it. I can be a valuable ally. Please don't hurt me. I've really wanted no part in all of this, but I need protection. If they suspect I've sided with you, they will come for me. I'm certain of it." Bill stepped forward then. "You'll have to stand before a council from the Order of Light. Will you agree to tell them all that you know?" Yes, I can do that," she said. "But can they offer me protection? I'm in a great deal of danger now." "I'm sure they'll do what they can if you prove to be a reliable asset," Bill said. "I'll call my parents and make the arrangements now. You won't be staying here tonight." He pulled his cell from his pocket, pressed a button, then turned away and spoke into it quietly. "What about that portal?" Jack interjected. "Can't Inez just appear through another one of those again?" "No." Clara looked at the necklace in Ethan's hand. "See that pendant your brother is holding? I made that for her. Without it, she doesn't have the power to teleport. And it was calibrated to work only with her energy, so it's just a useless piece of jewelry in anyone else's possession." "I say we destroy it," Jack replied. "Good thinking, pal," Bill finished on the phone and walked to Ethan with his hand out. Jack smiled as Ethan shook Pop's hand. "Ethan, this is Bill, my best friend Bart's dad. Bill, my brother Ethan." I guess that's my cue, Bart said, walking out from behind the globe where he had been cowering. I'm Bart. Nice to finally meet you, Ethan. I'll take that if you don't mind, son. Bill stood in front of Ethan with his palm out, waiting, and Ethan reluctantly placed the necklace in his hand. Bill then turned to Clara. Come with me. They're sending some people over to escort you to where you'll be held, he said, taking Clara by the arm. The two of them crossed the room, heading for the staircase. And as they walked, Clara briefly glanced over her shoulder to lock eyes with Ethan, a small smile turning up the corners of her mouth, before she turned again to follow Bill down the stairs. Yeah, and you don't want to mess with my dad, Bart added, as Bill escorted Clara down the stairs. He's a badass wizard. For all you know, he might turn you into a toad. Ethan snorted. Epilogue. Dublin, Ireland, present day. Late night snack, boys? Arthur asked. Yeah, let's get out of this room, Bart said. It kind of creeps me out. Jack and Ethan nodded their heads enthusiastically and got to their feet. They passed the globe on their way out, and Ethan paused by it. What's that thing? Ethan asked. Jack looked back at him, watching his brother glide his fingers over the wooden railing surrounding it. He stepped away from the doorway and gave Ethan a playful nudge. Long story. I'll tell you all about it another time, after food. Ethan, Jack said as they reached the bottom. It's just really good to see you again. I've missed you. Don't get all mushy on me now, Ethan said, and he grinned sideways at Jack. Turning together, they headed toward the small staircase where Bart and Arthur stood waiting. Dude, Jack ran a few steps to catch up. I can hardly wait to compare notes with you about life growing up and our magical abilities and all that stuff. I have got some seriously weird stories to tell you. Yeah? Like what? Ethan asked as they stepped through the doorway and into the main upper hallway. Whoa, Ethan gasped. Pretty impressive, huh? Jack dashed past Ethan, then stopped at the top of the expansive stairway leading downstairs. Well, for starters, there's this golden telescope that our Grandma Lydia has been appearing to me through. You'll see a portrait of her in a minute here at the bottom of these stairs. He glanced at his brother as they began their descent. Oh, and by the way, Grandpa Edward isn't dead after all. He's communicating with me through his reading glasses. He's hiding out in 1917. The end. That's it. All done. That's the end of book 1, The Golden Telescope. Book 1 in my Jack and the Magic Hat Maker series. So, I hope you enjoyed the ending. Please do let me know. As the author, of course, I love to hear feedback. So I would love to hear what you think about the whole book, and especially the way that it ends. Did you feel like it was a gratifying ending? Did you expect it to end the way it did? Did it surprise you? I would love to know your thoughts on how I finished up the end of the book. And next, we will be reading book 2. Ooh, that's really glary. There you go. The Kidnapping King. It's the continuation of the Jack and the Magic Hat Maker saga story. That was saga and story together. So I'll start reading that. Today's Monday, so I'll start reading that to you on Wednesday. It's not as long as the first book. It's almost as long. But there you go. So this is book 2 on top. So I'll start reading that, and I am working on book 3. I expect to have it ready to publish before, hopefully, by the end of this month. I don't know if it's going to happen, to tell you the truth, because it's just been coming out of me, kicking and screaming throughout this whole, COVID thing. I have not gotten into writing like I did before COVID. That's just honest to goodness the truth. So we'll see if I get it done in time for the holidays this year. But what I am going to have done for sure, that I've been working on really hard for the last few weeks, is a student companion workbook to go with book one, The Golden Telescope. And I go through, it's mostly about reading retention, so I offer lots of like multiple choice questions for every single chapter in the book. And then there are also going to be some coloring pages in there and some word puzzles to solve. So anyhow, that will be it's so close to being ready to publish right now. So today is October 4th, 2021, and it's Monday. I will for sure have that ready and available on Amazon by this coming weekend, for sure. So right now I'm almost at chapter 30, so I'm almost done with it. It's taken longer than I expected to come up with questions and answers. So anyhow, oh, and this is just totally, what did I do? Look at me. I'm all messy. Oh my gosh, this is dinner. I didn't even realize I slopped on myself. I was going to show you that ironically, I happen to be wearing my t-shirt, my sweatshirt for the first time this season, my Jack and the Magic Hat Maker sweatshirt. And I also decided, if you don't know, I also make handcrafted jewelry. So I decided today, you know what? I'm not going to let the worries of the world get me down. I'm going to wear some of my handcrafted magical looking jewelry. So I made this pendant, not today, I made it, but I decided to wear magical looking jewelry today. So I'm wearing some of my magical jewelry that I made. So just to get me in the mood for today. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this reading. I've surely enjoyed reading this book to you. Please do let me know. Leave your comments. If you haven't subscribed already, please do subscribe. Share my channel with your friends and family who you know would enjoy this kind of story. And, give me a thumbs up. That would be really great. It makes me so happy to see the thumbs up. And ring the bell if you want to receive notification every time I upload new content, which I'm back on track for doing. I won't promise that I'll do it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but I'll at least, be way more consistent about uploading new content for you guys. So anyhow, take good care. Thanks again for joining in. I really hope you've enjoyed this story. Talk to you soon.